So these are some quick stats. 57 million people. It's about 19% of the population here. 8.1 million difficult seeing, 2 million blind, 7.6 difficult hearing, and 31 million have difficult walking or climbing upstairs. So quite a bit of our population is dealing with this, and something we should be a little more aware of. This is from the World Health Organization. So this is kind of looking at it globally, and over 1 billion people. I mean, that's probably the eye-popping, 1 in 7 experience some sort of disability. And it kind of goes through here, but I want to highlight a few things on this one. They're 2 times more likely to find healthcare provider skills and facilities inadequate, 3 times more likely to be denied healthcare, and 4 times more likely to be treated badly in the healthcare system. Right, so just thinking about the experience that maybe some of the Americans with disabilities are having, or folks with disabilities around the world. Another thing to highlight down here is half people with disabilities cannot afford it. 50% more likely to suffer catastrophic health expenditures. And, it really pushes people into poverty, which down here kind of shows just, simple thing is like hearing aids. There's 466 million people that probably need that, but we're only meeting 10% of that need and 3% in developing countries. So it's, obviously a lot worse there. And then finally, wanted to highlight some stuff within the United States here that goes along those same lines we had talked about. People with disabilities are less likely to be employed, so 33% compared to 73%. Disabilities are more likely to be in poverty, 23 compared to 12. They're more likely to have health insurance, which is a good thing, 90% compared to 84. And then, they overall earn less money. So people with a disability overall earn $19,000 compared to $30,000 for other cohort. So just wanted to highlight, thinking about the anniversary was yesterday for the Americans with Disabilities Act, highlight some of that stuff so we can all remember to be a little bit more inclusive to those folks that we know. So with that, I'll pass it over to Donnell for the opening statement.
Thanks so much for that introduction there, Joe. Appreciate the spotlight. So just a couple of quick things. Just to level set, every time we gather, there may be people who are here for the first time, and we think it's important that we're all on the same page as to why we're here and what this entire experience is about. So this group here was brought together after a WEFMAX that we did in North Dakota in 2022, where we focused the entire WEFMAX gathering on DE&I. And coming out of it, there was this feeling of, hey, we have to do more of this, and we have to work together, and we need to use the network that we do have across the Federation to work together on this journey. So a couple quick things that we always want to remind everyone of. This is an opportunity for member associations to share their experiences. What are you seeing where you are, and what's your experience like? What's happening in your part of the country or part of the Federation? You can be in Canada, you can be in New Zealand, wherever the Federation is, you can be in Mexico. And also we wanted to make sure if there are challenges that you're facing, we believe that crowdsourcing solutions is a great way to get things done, because as I've said many times, each person's very good at solving other people's problems. So why not take the opportunity to solve one another's problems, use this network to share with one another what challenge we're facing. Another thing is to share best practices. So if you're doing something really amazing on your part of the Federation, it's important that instead of us reinventing the wheel somewhere else, we are sharing with one another these resources and giving everybody an opportunity to build from a foundation that may have been set by another member association. So we're very excited about what's been happening. The House of Delegates DE&I committee has been leading the charge and has taken responsibility for keeping this going. So definitely thanks to Joe, the current chair, and Valerie, the current vice chair, who is the future chair, and all of the members of the House of Delegates DE&I Committee for continuing this work. So thank you very much, and we're looking forward to an amazing session today. So happy you're here.
Thanks, Donnell. So I'll get us going with a poll. I didn't realize I didn't have the functionality to do that in this platform, but it looks like Kelsey just added a poly message in the chat.
Well, and hold on, I'm just give me like a minute and I'll have it ready to push out here.
Okay, and we can just talk through it for now. So the question is about where you are with your MA with regard to having an inflow program. And so I'll just go over the prompts while Kelsey is pulling that together. So first we have, my MA does not have an inflow program and we're not in conversations on starting one. The second prompt is, my MA does not have an inflow program, but conversations have started and we're discussing a new program. The third prompt, there are 6 total. The third prompt is, my MA has an inflow program that is actively in development. 4, we just got an inflow program started. 5, we've had an inflow program for at least 1 year. And then the 6th one, just kind of a bonus one. For inflow, we have both the STEM path and the career tech inflow programs in my MA. And so in just a minute, we can chat about the poll. But in the meantime, actually, I don't have a meantime prompt, but we'll just wait for Kelsey to get the poll active.
Okay, I think it's ready, so I'm going to press send right now.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Ah, there it is. So if you guys could take a second to answer the question, we just want to get a feel for where everybody is, how far along some of our MAs might be, and where we could focus some of the conversation throughout this networking call. So we're getting some results. Let me see. Okay, so most of us so far, I don't want to speak too early because I'll vote, but it looks like most of us are in that first stage. We don't have an inflow program and we're not having conversations around it yet. We've also got decent representation, about 25%, that there is a discussion around it, so that's positive. 10%-ish inflow is in development. And then it looks like 8% total, or just one MA for each, has an inflow program, has had one for at least a year, and has the STEM path and career tech program. And so throughout this call, we're going to talk about some success stories, WEF's background on why the inflow program got started in the first place. And then we're going to hear from some of those folks who have had success in getting the inflow program started, some of their lessons learned and pain points and successes throughout that. Donnell or Joe, do you guys want to add anything to this before we move into the program?
I think the only thing I'll add is that one of the reasons why we are really pushing this at this point in time is because of the amazing success that the WEF inflow program has had. And we have had conversations with the Board of Trustees concerning the growth of that program. And there's only so much that can be done on the national level. And the best way that this program can continue to grow and flourish is through the member associations. So this is why we're now saying time to spread the love and have it on a local level really flourish. And that's our best path to growing with amendments across the Federation. So appreciate it.
Thanks, Donnell. So let me share the agenda really quick, just so everyone knows where we're going, just in case you didn't have a chance to yet. So we've just done this introduction. We're going to take a few minutes to talk about WEF Unity and the really cool platform that WEF has set up for us to essentially communicate better with each other. Then we're going to do a deep dive into the WEF InFLOW, have WEF staff talk about the purpose behind that program, a deep dive into the starter kit that WEF has developed. And so maybe you could use these resources to begin having conversations in your MA or advance the ones that you're already having. And then share 2 success stories with MAs throughout WEF, and then an alumni experience. Then we'll have breakout sessions where we'll answer a few questions, 5 breakout groups answering different questions, and then we're gonna come back for a report out, and InFLOW is gonna close us out. So with that, I will stop sharing. And is Jack Connors with us right now?
He is. I will start sharing my screen and I will walk everybody through WEF Unity.
Thanks, Jack.
So, no problem. So first of all, I want to introduce myself. My name is Jack Connors. I am the Senior Community Engagement Manager for WEF. I am in charge of heading up WEF Unity. So if you ever have any questions, any concerns, any suggestions about WEF Unity, please let me know. Especially for this group, one of my top priorities is making sure that WEF Unity is accessible as possible for everybody. If you ever notice a feature, an improvement, or even a slight tweak that we could make to make it to a platform easier for you to use, please let me know, and I will do my absolute best to get it done for you. I certainly want to make sure that everybody here is able to make the most use of the platform and get all of the benefits from it. So anyways, we can start out and I'll be walking everybody through step by step. If you'd like to join along, please feel free. I'd recommend it. But the first thing that we're going to do today is navigate to community.wef.org, and that is the login screen that you see here for WEF Unity. And then you click this nice green box here that says login. And once you do that, it'll take you to the single sign-on screen. We use the same sign-on for all of WEF's products, all of the applications. So just use whatever your WEF email and password are. And then log in here. And give it a second to load. And this is the homepage that you'll access when you first log into WEF Unity. As long as you are a registered active member, you will have a WEF Unity profile waiting for you. It's very easy. All you have to do is log in. Now, once you log in, there's a whole lot of information happening, and I will walk you everybody through as much as I can. I can only stay on for a little bit, but I'll see how much we can get knocked out. So up here is the search function. So this is, excuse me, let me back up a sec. Right up here is the quick navigation toolbar. This is how you access a lot of the features within WEF Unity. And then down here are their main community tabs, and I'll walk you through those in a second. But up here, you can search through WEF. You can look for another user, a community, really anything at all that you might find interesting or might need to find. Over here is the sharing tab, where you can share a volunteer opportunity. And this will go out to the entire WEF Unity platform, or you can create an event, for example.
Yes, Mayor.
Meeting. Oh, so we have a question? Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah. I connected her with Treasury with Julie.
We can keep going.
Okay. And then over here, we have the locations check-in. This is still in beta testing. We are hoping to have this ready by WEFTech so that everybody can check in at whatever part of the conference that they're at and share something they learned, something they're enjoying, or just, a quick heads up that they're there. Over here, we have the notifications tab. As you can see here, this gives you an insight on what's happening in communities that you're a part of, as well as any forums that you've posted in or any events that you've RSVP to. And then over here is our direct messaging system. And here you can see, you can message anybody, any users on the platform. They can message you back. You can make group messages as well. So if you have, a quick task that you're working together with other WEF members on, you can add up to 50 other people, 49 including you, or 50 including you, 49 other users into here and have a group message. And then once you're removed from the group, then the user's information will be deleted, but the information will still stay. So any messages that you've sent will still stay in there. So it's helpful to be able to go back and access that. Anyways, moving along. Over here, we have events, and these are all of the upcoming events that we have that are WEF Unity-wide. There is a capability to make community-only events, and I will jump to those in a second. As you can see here, we have workshops, quarterly meetings, young professionals focus groups, in-person conferences, summits, all that good stuff. And then moving on to the Media Center, these are community-wide resources. So here we have the HiveBright, that's the name of the host for WEF Unity. Here we have the FAQ and the user guide, as well as the user demo. And then while I'm on this topic, I will jump over here. We have a very new feature, the help desk ticket feature. If you click here under the platform training and help desk tab, navigate over to submitted help desk ticket, it'll open up a SurveyMonkey window that goes right to us. Here you detail any issue that you have trouble with, any bugs you run into, or just anything that you're not sure about. And this goes right to the WEF Unity community team. So I will receive the request and we will deal with it as soon as we receive it. And then here is where all the best parts of WEF Unity are under the Communities tab. As you can see here at the very top, you have all the communities that you're a member of. And then if you go down, you have all the publicly listed communities. There are 3 types of communities in WEF Unity. There are public communities, for example, air quality and odor control. Anybody can join them. Anybody can go in and see the materials they have or view what events they have coming up. There are private communities, which are publicly listed, but not publicly available. So you can click on them, but they won't show you what is in the community. For example, I'm not a member of the Residuals Biosolids Greenhouse Gas Focus Group. If I go to the group, I can see that it exists. I can request to join it by clicking on join, but I'm not able to access any information. If you'd like to join a focus group that you're not already in for some reason, or a private community, all you have to do is click join, write a quick message, and the group admin will get back to you very quickly. And then, while we're all here, navigate over to our group, which is a private group. Here we have the live feed. This is where you can write posts. It has all the members of the group in case you need to get a hold of somebody, reach them through their WEF Unity profile. You can post upcoming events, or rather, the group admin can post upcoming events. The group admin can also post news, and this goes out to the entire community. There's a media center here in case you have any content that you want to share, for example, community guidelines, really any kind of manual or documents that you'd want everyone in the community to have. You have forums, and anybody can post here. If you have a topic of discussion you'd like to bring up, if you have feedback for an event you just attended or questions about an upcoming meeting, we encourage you to post that here. And then for opportunities, if you have a volunteer opportunity, anything like that, you can post that in there via the group admin, and that goes out to everybody in the group. And anybody have any questions while we're here? Okay, great. Well, I have to drop now to go to another meeting to do exactly what I just did for all of you, but I will leave you in Kelsey's very capable hands and leave my email as well. If you ever have any questions, issues, concerns, just want to talk about WEF Unity, please feel free to shoot me an email. I'm always happy to get feedback from our community members, and I'm very, very reachable. So if anything comes up at all, just let me know. I'll get it to you as soon as I can.
Thanks so much, Jack. One quick note, you notice that our page is empty. That is a way that we would like to communicate moving forward. And for anyone at WEFTech, it is a good way to kind of keep in touch with everyone. You have to log into Unity that one time. You have to log into it the first time in order to start receiving any notifications from it. So if you have a second at some point this week, just click on the link and log in so that we can begin to start having communications through that. So next we've got our WEF InFLOW discussion. So do we have Jessica or Steve on the line yet?
We have Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Good afternoon.
So Steve's going to be giving us kind of a WEF background introduction into InFLOW. Take it away.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. So as we know, InFLOW is our Introducing Future Leaders to Opportunities in Water program. It now consists of 2 tracks. Our STEM path identifies scholars enrolled in undergraduate or graduate degree programs from historically underrepresented ethnic and racial groups, and our career tech path partners with community-based organizations to expose scholars in job readiness programs to the variety of rewarding career possibilities in water quality. The tracks began simultaneously in 2018 as diversity, equity, and inclusion became a core principle of the organization's mission. We wanted to reach audiences that we hadn't successfully engaged before and started STEM Path by partnering primarily with historically Black colleges and universities. We had also long wanted WEFTech to have a greater impact in our host cities, and Career Tech began as the Emerging Water Quality Scholars Program. The following year, we combined them both into the InFLOW program. We work with core network chapters in our host cities to encourage their cohorts to consider careers in water quality. The core network chapters are essentially the descendant of the Civilian Conservation Corps. The core network advances programs that transform young people's lives and communities through career development, conservation, and civic engagement. They often work with opportunity youth, typically described as individuals that are 16 to 22 years old, that are or underemployed and may face barriers to employment. And they're often job readiness programs kind of in the green space. So it's typically a terrific fit with their content. There is some intersection of the programming on site at WEFTech, but consists of volunteering at service project, facility tour. They watch some of the student design contest. They are recognized at the opening general session. They tour the Operations Challenge event, of course. They go to the career fair. They attend relevant technical panel sessions and panel discussions, and they network with sector leaders. The program concludes with a luncheon and final panel on Tuesday. The travel and lodging for STEM Path students is covered by our generous sponsors. And for the career tech cohorts who are local, we provide them with a stipend, so it compensates them for any lost wages they likely have by participating in the program. This concept is scalable. All of you have an annual conference that has similar elements as WEFTech. You have an expo, you have technical programming. Many of you have service projects, various networking events, facility tours, etc. The program at WEFTech is phenomenal, but these types of efforts are often even more successful at a local event. You could begin with either of the tracks or both, and discussing how you can implement this program is, I guess, why we're here today. So I will turn it over to Amy Baker for a deep dive of the starter kit.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that.
Okay.
If my mic goes out, just start hollering at me. Sometimes I need to take my camera off for my mic to work. So I'm going to do more of a snorkel than a deep dive. And you'll find out why as we go along. So I'm just going to navigate you to the starter kit for the InFLOW program. So it is fairly simple. So when you open up your internet, you type in wef.org and this page will populate. And then just to show you, if you wanted to go more into, like, read the things that Steve just talked about, there are websites that are on the website. You can go to events and education and go to WEF InFLOW, and this is where it kind of explains WEF's program. But if you go to topics, and you can get to this from the previous page I was just on, or sorry. Okay, so you want to go to, this is perfect that I'm struggling, because this would be what your experience, exactly what you're going to experience when you do this. So we go to topics, hot topics, and then this diversity, equity, and inclusion. And when you get there, this again talks a little bit about WEF and more information on the InFLOW program. But this right here where it says DE&I MA resources, this is what you want to select. And then you need to log in. So I see the only hiccup for someone, I don't know if Donnell, you can answer this. If you are not on the House of Delegates, can you still access this?
So it should be accessible to all WEF members. So as
Okay.
long as you can log into WEF, Kelsey, am I right?
Yep, you're right. And we're actually working on having it removed from the member login wall. So yes, that's 100% correct.
Perfect. Okay. So from this page, you're just going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, which isn't too far. But here are the tools. So there are a lot of amazing tools here, but specific to the InFLOW starter kit, it is tool number 5. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. Okay. And I'm gonna zoom in. If this looks crazy on your screen, let me know. If it's too big, let me know. If it's too small, let me know. But right now I have it zoomed in pretty close. All right, so this opened up basically a 19-page document that has tons of helpful information. And I think there's actually some exhibit title pages, so there's really like 14 pages worth, but it talks through starting an InFLOW program on the MA level. I'm not going to make any of you nauseous by the scrolling. And then just more information on getting an MA or getting an InFLOW program started. So there's a description of the initiative, the 2 potential paths of the scholars. A few MAs have already implemented an InFLOW program, and some of those MAs helped with putting the starter kit together. So the reason why I'm not doing a deep dive is because we actually have Illinois here with us today, which is awesome because they are the ones who supplied most of the documents for this toolkit. So I am going to keep this document open while Cam walks us through it, but I'm just going to scroll through really quick to let you see through here. So there's some first steps so that you know what you need to think about initially, and then some insights from the program. So this is actually where I'm going to stop and pass it over to Cam with Illinois, so that, and I'll scroll for her. She'll just let me where to go and tell me where she wants me to scroll, so that she can do more of the deep dive and talk about the successes that her MA is having with the InFLOW program that they started.
All right. Well, thank you, Amy. Can everybody hear me? Great. So thank you again for having me here. Just want to share with all of you some of the experience that we have. So I'm from the Illinois WEA. And so we started our InFLOW program back in 2019. So that was pretty much right after, I think, WebTech initiated the WEF InFLOW program. I think it was, Steve just mentioned it was 2018 it was started. So a few months later, we started. So we didn't really know what we were doing, but we just kind of like, trying to see what happened at WebTech and just mimic, what supposed to happen here. So we have started in 2019, and then something called COVID happened. So 2021, we didn't have any in-person conference. So everything is virtual. And then we picked up again 22 and 23. So just thinking back, how we got going. I mean, the first thing we really did is to make sure that the board, the annual conference for Illinois is a joint conference between IWEA and also a operators group in Illinois. So we want to make sure that both organizations agree with having this InFLOW program in the conference. So we got the approval, very early on once we decided that this is something that we want to try, get the approval from the conference planning committee. And once we get the okay, then the next thing we want to figure out is how much are we talking about here? So we have a spreadsheet figure out. So I'll go through these steps real quick before we get to the exhibits. So we want to figure out, how many number of students we can afford. Hotel accommodation. So what we find out is that the host hotel usually have a few free rooms available for the organizations to use. So we took advantage of those free rooms from the host hotel. And then meals, usually the only fee, or the only cost for the meals is really the banquet. Everything else, we have vendors to sponsor like lunch, etc. So meals is not really an issue. Transportation, it really depends on where the schools are, how far they are from the conference center, and then sponsorship. So once we figure out roughly what the amount that we're looking, that we think we need, we start looking into, well, where do we find the money? Because the planning started just a few months before the planning for the InFLOW started a few months before the conference date, which we already halfway into the annual conference planning. So definitely this is an additional budget that we did not account for it from the get-go. So once we figure out how much money we are looking at, then we start looking into sponsorships. And fortunately, the sponsorship, for annual conference, a lot of time, the private consulting firms, they are usually the big sponsors here. So they don't, it's pretty easy to persuade them to, give us additional $1,000 here and there to support the students. So that's really is the money, is the budget planning. And then once that is completed, then the next thing, to me, I feel like the candidate, looking for the right candidate is the biggest challenge. Well, first of all, the InFLOW is really target on kind of like the underrepresented candidates. So we try not to go to big school, but at the end, we did end up looking for candidates from big schools. And the reason is that we try to look for like community college, local community college that, maybe historically is Black. But the challenge we find is that they don't usually have a curriculum that focuses on water, let alone wastewater. So to find that right person, when the school doesn't really support the curriculum, is quite an undertaking. So for the first year, at least, we still end up with some big school, but within this big school umbrella, we look for candidates from kind of like from the minority societies. So that's how we identify the school. Basically, is the next thing to do. And then through our young professional committee, they still have good connections with professors, in school. So then we get connected with professors, and the professors help us identify the students that would be a good candidate for InFLOW. So that's kind of like how we use our connection to find the candidates. And then once we have the professors identified, then we gave him or her basically the kind of like the communication materials of the brochure, so that he or she can help spreading the program here. And then we provide them also the express of interest form, because we do want to find out a little bit more about the students. So that's the umbrella under candidate searching. And then closer to the conference, we have a program. We come up with a program from the conference, and then we identify the sections that would be beneficial to the students. So then we look at the program, we identify, we pick out the section that we wanted them to participate, and we put it in a separate package for them. So it goes from some program, identified sections they want to, we want them to attend, to even the seating arrangements. Because one thing we don't want to happen is that, all these InFLOW students sit together, and that kind of defeat the purpose that we do want them to network with the industry, because we are trying to introduce the industry to them, making sure that they are aware what they can, the different career paths that they can, end up if they were to go with to environmental scientist, environmental science program, or any kind of engineering program. So anywhere from seating arrangement to attendance requirements, things like that. We want to make sure that they know exactly what they're doing every single hour, instead of having them just free roaming in the conference center, don't know where to go or don't know what to do. And then once that is prepared, we send to the candidates, and then we have a pre-conference call with them, making sure that they are comfortable. Whatever questions they come up with, we can answer beforehand. That will be good. And then obviously during the conference, we want to make sure that we have volunteers from the committees that will kind of chaperone them around, making sure that again, they are not lost in the conference, so to speak. Making sure that they are not just hiding in their room, but they are actively participating in the conference. Making sure that they are talking to the right people, exploring to them, what they can do with their study of interest. And yeah, so the goal is really to introduce the different opportunities to them, making sure that they know there are many more different pathways that they can go, with their degree. And then after everything is done, the conference is over, they went back to school. We have a little survey sent to them just to get some feedback, what we can do better, etc. So now maybe I can go to the different exhibits and browse through them real quick and see. Keep going. Okay, so again, this is 2019 budget. So yeah, it looks a little bit cheap now, but this before the pandemic. So so we look at lodging, we look at registration, meals. Again, the main cost is really the banquet. Everything else, usually we already have the sponsor covered. And then transportation, and we figure out. I mean, we at the beginning we don't really know, how the students, how many students are going to come from to different school, and how they are going to get to the conference center. So this is really just some kind of assumption. Rental car, assuming they will drive down, or actually 1 year I think they end up with a van that kind of trucking the students to the conference center. So it turns out great, but just very rough idea how much it will cost. So here we were anticipating 15, but actually on the first year I think we end up with only 7 students. With the same reason that I said earlier, it's kind of difficult to find the right candidates. So then if we keep scrolling down further, so yeah, so this is kind of like the interest, expressing the interest to attend the InFLOW program. Now, thinking back, some of the lessons learned that we could have done different is that at the beginning, we did not know that there are 2 paths under the InFLOW program, the STEM path and the career tech that Steve mentioned. So, if we would have known that, then maybe we'll add that to this particular form, asking the students or asking the candidate, which path they would be more interested in. But these are really just the basic information. The major, current year, or which year they are in, and what they are trying to accomplish, from this program, etc. So just a very small, and we try to make the form as short as possible, because nobody likes to fill out, pages and pages of form. So we just try to make it short and sweet, something that they can easily fill it out and send it back. And then what else? Oh, and then this is the actual program. So this is the activities that we identified for the students. We have some contact information from the first page. It's just so that if they get lost, they know who they can talk to or who they can call for help. Yeah, so this is kind of like the what do you call that? The program or the sections that we identify for them to attend. Location, time, the speakers, etc. If you want to keep scrolling down, let's see what else we have here. Yeah, so pretty much it's the same thing here. What do we have? Oh, yeah, very important, food. So we even identify the location and what time or where they can go to have their lunch. Very important information for students for sure. And then these are the post-conference question. Again, just to get some feedback from the students, want to improve on the program for the next year. So this is also important to send out afterwards. So that's pretty much how Illinois started the program. So since then, I'm sure there have been some improvements, I hope, to the program. Again, there were 2 years kind of on the virtual basis because of COVID. We picked it up in 22, 23. I think last year we picked up 8 students as well. So it seems like 7 to 8 are really the spot for us. So if you have a bigger WEA, you can afford more students. So that's it. I am open up for any question, or if you want to keep going, go for it. I'll be sticking around.
Thank you, Cam. That was awesome. So one thing, so do you feel that it's successful and that your MA is going to continue this?
I believe so. Yeah, I haven't heard anything bad about it.
Okay.
I think it's always very rewarding when you see the face of the students. Oh, wow, this is something that they have no idea that they can get into. So that face is very very priceless to me, at least.
Yeah, I like that you had that social media aspect that kind of had a little contest caveat to it to get the scholars to kind of help promote the program for you afterwards. That was kind of cool. So,
yeah.
So there is a question. Are you able to summarize some of the post-conference survey results?
I think I can probably get it somewhere. I don't have it myself, but I can collect them.
Okay. And then, yeah, anyone can ask any questions. We're pretty good with time right now. I think we're right on the money to have, I don't know if I'm taking over your spot, Valerie, to introduce the next person. Okay, perfect. So do we have Julie? I think I saw Julie on from Texas.
Yeah, hi there. I'm here.
Awesome. Yep, can hear you just fine.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I am excited to say that it may be boring for you guys, but my experience and my story is very similar to Cam's, so I feel like we're doing something right if we are mirroring each other and have parallel stories without even reading the same playbook. I am going to share my screen, possibly. Okay, great. So, perfect. This was our flyer that we produced for the first year we did InFLOW, which was 2022, so just last year. And similar to Cam, we had a big push and a pretty great effort rolling into 2020, and then closed up shop and reopened in 2022 with our first cohort. The 3 things that I think allowed us to be successful are, again, themes that I heard in Cam's presentation. We leveraged relationships, especially reaching out to alums and influential alums at the universities that we were targeting. We were very thoughtful about our budget, and we made sure that we had a nice flush budget to essentially fund this. So there was nothing out of pocket. So there would be no consideration of the students. It was just the opportunity cost of their time. It was not out of pocket or, even down to their coffee. We gave them per diem so they could get, whatever they wanted at the Starbucks, right? And the last piece, which you can't really plan for, you just have to have, is tenacity. I would not let these professors go. And, I emailed them and I would copy the department head and then all of the professors in the civil or environmental engineering department, as well as environmental studies departments. And so I kept picking away at them in a way where it was very obvious that no one was answering the emails, and there became some social pressure, I would imagine, on their end for someone to at least, swat the fly away, right? And so we were able to catch their attention with that. And then I brought in the big gun, which was the chief operating officer from City of Houston, Eric Dargan, who was an alum of Prairie View A&M, which is a historically Black university about an hour and a half away outside of Houston. And we had Eric contact the dean and say, hey, this is a great opportunity. We're really looking forward to have the students here. And all of a sudden, Prairie View A&M was incredibly responsive. And so, through tenacity, having that budget, and then leveraging those relationships and knowing who you had available kind of in your pocket to be the muscle and the big guns, worked out for us in our first year, And so we always have to have kind of that group that goes through it, that trailblazes, that allows you to improve on your model, right? And so we also brought the students in and made sure that we had, as Cam said, a very curated experience. And we really drove that home with the universities is, hey, we are curating this experience for the students to allow meaningful relationships and really expand their employment potential in the water sector. And I think that resonated with the professors and the department heads. And then the subtext that we also embedded within the emails is, hey, this is a great opportunity for your university and your department to get its name and its logo out in front of thousands upon thousands of Texans and people. And those folks have kids, and those kids are looking for their, school of choice. And so that was the subtext that we didn't overtly sell, but we made darn sure was embedded in our outreach email. And so that was kind of our approach plan. And then as far as creating the schedule, we took the bits and pieces from our existing annual conference called Texas Water and really put together the info schedule based on that. The only thing we did additional to our Texas Water schedule was offer a InFLOW panel and mentoring hour, right? Where our mentors up here got to tell their stories and really inspire the students, and the students got time to ask some questions. And then I guess the other thing was the post-InFLOW interviews. And so similar to the follow-up survey that Cam did, we did actually on-the-spot interviews with the students. And I'm going to, hopefully the link that I just put in the chat takes you guys to the interviews, and I can show them on Vimeo, but I don't think I'm smart enough to be able to make the audio go from my computer to play for you all. So we're not going to go through that mess, but hopefully you guys can access the interviews. They're really exciting, and I'm really proud of them. So that was 2022. 2023 was incredibly successful. And if you notice in 2023, we're using the actual InFLOW logo. We took some liberties with the trademark logo and realized that we needed to use the InFLOW logo that WEF developed. So we're using that in 2023. We expanded from one HBU to two HBUs, one university that is primarily Latino and Southeast Asian, and then one community college. So we went from 1 to 4. The third university, the HBU, Texas Southern University, which is located in Houston, the students didn't agree to come to the conference until 48 hours before the conference. So I guess if there's a fourth kind of buzzword or key theme, it's flexibility, right? You have to have staff that's flexible enough to answer those emails and work with those professors and work with those 20-year-olds that frankly are like, oh, I don't know, maybe this is a good opportunity. I'm not sure. I'll make the decision at the last possible minute. And if you want those students there, you have to be able to work with a 20-year-old in the way in which they operate, which is fly by the seat of their pants, right? And so we accommodated them, and luckily we had enough cushion in our budget to do that. But this is the student cohort, and again, we don't have the Texas Southern University students pictured here because they came in at such a late date, but we had Prairie View A&M once again. We had University of Texas, RGV, so Rio Grande Valley, and then we had Texas Southern. And then the Houston Community College, we had a couple of students, but we also had the Dean of the Continuing Education department who is putting in a water institute. And so he floated around and took part in some of the InFLOW program, but also just wanted to take a look at the exhibit hall and spent most of his time there. So we're really excited about the program we were able to put together in April of this year in 23. We also, similar to Cam, pulled in 4 sponsors for 2023 at $1,000 each, so that helped to defray some of our costs with that. And let's see here. Here are some of the interviews. Again, hopefully that Vimeo link works. And we also built out a page on our website that can just be really a reference landing point. I don't know if anyone actually read this or jumped on, but it is always a way to make yourself seem that much more legitimate, right? You give them a URL where they can get all the information. You're not just looking like, you know, some random stranger knocking on their inbox. You say, hey, this program is uber successful. It started at the national level with our parent organization. We've adopted it. You know, we had a very successful 2022. Here are the testimonials, which, by the way, are those interviews. Here are the testimonials from the students from 2022. Would your students like to be part of the program? And then we sent them to this page. And so, again, student cohort 2022. Some of the students. I want you to look at this guy's face. So kind of memorize his face, right? So this is a 2022 student cohort. And moving over here, I was running around Texas Water in 2023, and I ran into him. So he was a successful placement in Trilogy Engineering, which is a minority-owned business in Texas. So, you know, we had 2 successful placements out of 5 students in our first year of InFLOW. And, you know, that sells the program itself to the professors and the schools we're reaching out to. So with that, I'm gonna hopefully, let me get back to a different screen so that my face isn't larger than life. And by the way, that was Michael LeBlanc in that picture. So there's a picture of him a year earlier. But I'm gonna put myself on mute and see if there are any questions, or if, you know, you guys wanted to hear any other information or anything different, or maybe I can go a little deeper on anything.
I actually have a real quick question, I think, for Julie and Kim. How far ahead of your conferences did you look into budgeting and then reach out to colleges and universities?
Yeah, I think I might have been quicker at unmuting than Cam, so I'll go first. So I've had ongoing conversations with the universities that we had in April of 2023 over the summer. So I know that they're bought in again. So that's great. But as far as those cold calls, right, and doing your research and then knocking on their inbox, we waited until September and October. And our conference is in April. So we gave them, you know, the better part of a semester and a half to really think about it, knowing that we had to convince them that it was worthwhile for them to even present it to their students and get those students on board and engaged. And again, that gave us enough time to continue to, you know, Be tenacious and not in their inbox. Get them to get these knowledge. And this
I think I lost your audio.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. Yes.
Okay.
Cam, do you want to
Yeah.
answer? There's a question from Steve as well.
Yeah, so regarding the timing, I believe our conference has been around March or April timeframe, and we usually reach out before Christmas. Because if we reach out too far ahead, I mean, again, we are dealing with students, right? And they don't know what they're doing tomorrow, so it's very hard for them to commit to anything too far ahead. But I think we started reaching out to professors at least, before Christmas, and then when they get this new batch of students, coming in the new semester, they can keep an eye out for the candidates for us. So.
Thank you, Cam. Steve, do you want to ask your question?
I just wanted to reiterate what Julie said. Absolutely, at least a full semester and a half. The first couple of years of our InFLOW program, we got agreements from the professors in the spring, but they didn't identify the cohorts until the beginning of this fall semester, typically the end of August. I mean, that's barely 5 weeks before WEFTEC. So depending where in the calendar year your conference is, again, a lead time of at least a full semester and a half to identify the partners.
One thing I'll add to what Steve just said. I think that's where we were in recent time, and I think this actually started since COVID when we went virtual. That realized there was a good component of that virtual part to prepare the students before they got to WEFTEC and so we do things like resume tips and tricks and other panels and things like that, maybe like a month or so early, but recognizing that they have to get to school first. So it's usually in that just a little month, I think, prior to WEFTEC, but we actually have quite a bit of content and they're exposed to more people and get a little bit more of a background on the water sector and get to speak to some of the recruiters for like resume tips and so on. So that has also been something, once we came back to in person, we kept some of that component as well, which then allows them more time to frolic and network at WEFTEC.
Thanks, y'all. Okay, so are there any other questions? I think Julie said she has to hop. But are there any other questions for some of our other experienced InFLOW folks on the phone?
I would just say, for those of you that can access the chat, Jillian has put some good information from New Zealand in the chat.
Okay, so with our last 20 or 30 minutes here, don't run away. We're gonna do some breakout sessions. I'm gonna share.
Did you miss the part where you're supposed to have the alumni?
Did I? Oh my God, I did. Yes. I'm so sorry. Sigmund, are you on the phone? I apologize.
I am. That's fine. Okay.
So would you like to tell us about your experience? Sorry.
And could Julie unshare her screen?
Absolutely. All right, I'll just go ahead until the screen gets unshared. But I'll keep it short and sweet. Is everyone hearing me? Okay, perfect. All right. So it's quite amazing to see what goes behind all the planning for WEFTEC. So I really appreciate that coming from someone who has been a part of WEFTEC. Let me start off by saying who I am. My name is Sigmund Skinner. I am from the Washington DMV area. I attended Howard University, did my bachelor's of civil engineering there. And then I moved on to my master's, and I did that same as well in civil engineering. And I work full-time as a water resources engineer with Arcadis. when I interacted with WestTech, it was in 2018. I remember it was a class time. Our professor came into class and she said, there's someone who wants to present an opportunity for students to attend the conference in New Orleans. At that time, to be honest, I wasn't quite interested in water resources. You was going through the motions as you were in undergrad, trying to find your way. And I was really happy that that initiative came to pass. So it was actually Ifitayo at the time. She visited our university with another Arcadian and two WEF coordinators, if I would say, Morgan and Brianna. That's what their names at the time. And they introduced the initiative to us, and it wasn't too long for us to actually get on board with the idea. So attending WestTech, it was a very eye-opening experience for me. It lived up to its program's name, which is InFLOW, Introducing Future Leaders to Water. It definitely introduced me to what the water industry has to offer. It definitely had us connecting with a lot of folks that we didn't even realize how vast the industry were if it wasn't for WestTech. And I think that's definitely a very noteworthy point there to actually for the students to recognize that this is a high in demand industry. So in just a matter of 5 days, I think my understanding of the pool of professionals and what they do and the educational initiatives as well coming out of the program and the community service activities that we did really made an impact. So I get in contact with Arcadis moving forward. When I graduated from undergrad, I went into the construction management industry, kind of explored there a little bit, and then I decided, I think that was around the COVID period, I graduated in 2020, and then I was, a time where you're thinking about, okay, what's next? And then the beginnings, I would say, when I was at WestTech came back to my mind, and I decided to contact Ifitayo and spoke to her about what I wanted to do moving forward with my career. So I got an opportunity to interview with my current company. I worked as an intern at the time, if I have to mention that. And I realized, okay, I think I want to get into the water resources industry, right? I moved on to do my master's and now I'm here full time. So saying all that to say, I think this is a great initiative, and your efforts. I just hearing from the previous speakers, I hear it sounds like there's a lot going on behind the scenes to plan these things, but just an encouragement to say it's definitely not going on dead ground, right? So that's a very short story of me. What do I currently do as a full-time engineer? I work on construction administrative projects, supporting it from the design side, whether it be pumping stations, pumping rehabilitation stations, drinking water waste treatment facilities, and also government grant funding applications for the BRIC program, stands for Building Resilient Infrastructure, and communities. Right, and that's an extension of FEMA and a couple of other things. So there is a lot to learn. I just clocked my first year at Arcadis, and there's so much more that I need to learn within this industry. So there you have it. Thank you for having me.
Wow, thank you. That was. All right, that was pretty awesome. Thank you for taking the time to share that with us. And glad you're having success, at your first job after school. Does anyone have any questions for Sigmund? Okay. So let's pivot to the breakout rooms. I'm going to post a list of questions in this chat so you can refer back to them. We're going to have 5 separate breakout rooms, and the objective is to just kind of brainstorm some ideas around what it's going to take to get an InFLOW program started for you, and maybe some of those initial steps. Okay, I just pasted the questions in this group chat, and Kelsey, I'm sure, is working furiously behind the scenes to get the groups set up. But whenever you're ready, Kelsey, just let us know.
It is creating the rooms right now. So hopefully in a minute here, we'll be ready to go.
And I'm assuming the rooms are going to be numbered, so we know which group.
I think so. I did
Okay.
rooms 1 to 5. So yeah, hopefully, I hope they are numbered.
Okay.
Oh, it said we had some trouble creating your rooms. Try again. Let me try again. Sorry, technical difficulties. And now it's telling me breakout rooms are already created. But is anyone seeing anything? Okay. Let me try this again. It's one of those moments. It's like technology is great when it works, but you know, frustrating when it doesn't want to cooperate.
So while you're working on that, if Sigmund is still on, I was going to ask him with his experience. So there was a gap where he had attended WEFTEC, and then he said he went back and contacted InFLOW. Did you feel that that WEF was accessible to you? Was it easy to go back and find who you needed to talk to?
Absolutely. After WEFTEC, we connected with my coordinators at the time, which was Morgan and Brianna, and they actually kept in contact with me. I remember before contacting Isfiteo, briefly be like, hey, how's it going? What's next after graduation? So I think noteworthy following up with the WEFTEC students is a great strategy after the conference. So yeah,
Awesome.
we definitely stay connected via LinkedIn.
Okay, thank you.
I'm having 0 success on my end. It's still, I'm so sorry. It just says we're creating your rooms. I have the blue little circle of death that keeps scrolling around and around. I've tried to like click out of it and click back in it, and it says breakout rooms are already created. So Teams, you're failing me and you're making me look bad.
Would it work for us to just go through the questions then as a group? I mean, there's 32 of us on, and
yes,
someone can hop in with each question and provide some info. We'll see how far we get.
I like it. Plan
Yes.
B. Let's go with it.
Cool. So group 1. So the first question was, what is the best approach to getting board support? And do you have a champion or committee dedicated to follow through and continuation of the program's success? If not, how do you ensure this will continue to move forward? So I think starting with, does anybody have any ideas on how to get board support, or has anybody gone through that before? Feel free to just come off mute and talk about it.
Hi guys, can everybody hear me?
Yeah, what's up, Stephen?
Hi everyone. Steve King, NUIA, New England MA. Again, we've started discussions with it and we're starting to build our InFLOW program as well. But I think to have success, you definitely need, your board's buy-in. So I think having the conversations early, putting together some type of presentation and workshops to get all the members on board, including the board, and being able to discuss how you'd like to see the program and how you want it to be successful and why it would benefit your MAs. Pretty much a key factor, I think, in getting a kickoff for the InFLOW program for your MA. The success or the champion for it, I feel like from everyone I've talked to, so far, it's really been in the specific D&I committees in each MA that have really championed the cause for the InFLOW program. And I think that so far has worked. But again, we have to make that somewhat sustainable. So we definitely need a lot of help with building and continuing the program and having success. So even within our DEI committee, we've also broken into another subcommittee of just handling the info aspects by ourselves as well, and bringing in our student, our YP chair, also a member from the actual the committees, and making sure that we have some type of representation from each of the important parts and aspects who are going to be kind of taking this on. Communication council is where I feel like we've had the most success. So I think that's a big part of it. And I think as what Cam and Julie talked about, having someone be able to have the contacts and reach out to colleges, community colleges and other career focused organizations, we need to have someone who is able to make those connections and then has a network ability. So I think those are some of the things that we need to look forward, need to present to your boards for support to keep the program strong and successful.
Go ahead, Doug.
Okay, so for me, I think it's more about champion first. I think in Pennsylvania, it goes that way. If a champion shows up who's really excited about doing something, it's a lot easier to say, okay, we're going to spend some money on that and make it happen. Because I think everybody kind of wants, not even a program like this, but just any program, outreach, trying to be more involved with students in general. We all want that to happen. We kind of struggle with how that's going to happen. So as soon as a champion comes along, I think our board's pretty willing to put some money into it and see how it goes.
Yeah, and thanks, Stephen, for sharing what you did, by the way. It's a really good insight. Sounds like you guys are teed up, ready to go. And I feel the same way, Doug, about Nevada's MA. That's where I'm located here. It's kind of, if there's a resource, if somebody's willing to take it and run with it, we're definitely gonna fund it. So good segue into the number 2 questions, because what are the potential sources of funding available for this program? And maybe if somebody on the call has something unique outside of what Julie and Cam were sharing. And then obviously it's got to be sustainable. Are those sustainable? And are there ways to raise funds outside of your current annual income? That rolls right into how many students could you possibly support then. So these are questions, the idea behind it is questions you would ask yourself as you're preparing to start your own InFLOW program. Lee.
Yeah, hi, thanks. Can everyone hear me? Good, right on. The only proviso I have with my comment or suggestion here is that I'm from Canada. So in Vancouver, there are different funding models that are available through local or provincial and federal governments. We found with our student programs, whether it's in a skills training envelope or program, there is keen interest for governments to get involved in supporting initiatives like this, particularly when we're talking about skilled trades. There is such a shortage in that regard that I have found governments have actually been jumping at the opportunity to support programs that expose potential candidates for school, but also potential candidates for employment. The temporary foreign worker debate up here is visceral. It's not helping the cause at all. But we have found governments and local governments particularly very supportive. So just a thought there.
Yeah, that's a great thought.
In the chat, I just wanted to read. I'd love it if New Zealand had the ability to speak up on the mic, but I'm going to read it just in case they aren't able to. Water New Zealand uses their they have a 5S initiative, which is the Select Society of Sanitary Sledge Shovelers. Are you able to?
Amy, I'm happy to speak. Kia ora, everybody. I'm I'm wrapped up because it's very wintry in New Zealand, and it's it would be 7:15 in the morning. So you're the first people I have spoken to so far this morning, having crawled out of bed. We've got a number of initiatives. So the Sanitary Society of, I always have to check what I'm exactly calling them, the Select Society of Sanitary Sludge Shovelers. So the gold shovel people that you see around your different conferences. Our local branch of those, they put money into a fund every year, about $50 each, which has essentially created a pot, which then allows us to use that to fund students, well, recent graduates in practice, to attend the conference. And what we do is Water New Zealand then covers the complimentary costs of the registration of the conference and the gala dinner. We get applications that come in, and the 5S group review those applications and announce, who the winners are. They come to the conference. They at our gala dinner, we welcome them, make sure people know who they are. And then we encourage them through our YWP local branches to go and talk to the YWPs about what they've done, what their experiences were. And it's been very successful. And certainly this year, the number of people who are putting their hands up to be selected is just increasing. And some of that's because we're publicizing it more. And we, the opportunity for someone who has a more a technical degree rather than a civil engineering type degree, that we are expanding it to them. And I think that's the first time that we're going to have someone from more of that technical operations part of our roles to join the conference this October.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you for joining from, halfway across the world during the wintertime and 7 in the morning. So really appreciate that. That's fantastic. I don't know. Really hot in Las Vegas right now. Let's throw that out there. So what's up? What's up, Ifatayo?
Yeah, just related to the funding one, I would just encourage folks to be a little creative and not necessarily assume that the money has to come from the budget or from boards. It can be a combination of both. I know that there have in discussions with some MAs, I think their concern is that getting sponsors for the InFLOW program takes away sponsors from others. And that may or may not necessarily be the case, because there are certainly some sponsors who haven't yet found the opportunity of what it is that they want to sponsor, and they may increase their funding as a result. One of the things that we did do when we did, obviously WEF has budget time for staff available to do these things. And so there's a cost associated with that. And, so we bear some of that, but also we have sponsors, and we did keep the sponsor number, as far as WEFTEC is concerned, in some cases intentionally low. So there is a low entry point, trying to get as many as possible, because it's a shared issue that we don't have enough folks in the workforce and enough diversity in the workforce. And so the more that we have, and then there's some level of engagement that you have with the students, depending on what level that you sponsor. And we were just trying to be a little bit creative in that, the sponsoring folks, their recruiters are the ones doing the resume tips and tricks. Like they get to provide some of their students. Utilities do not pay or any of those kinds of things, but they also engage. But the sponsoring ones, that's how we try to make that work. And then the lunch, there's the graduation lunch, but part of that lunch was, again, we have utility leaders present. And a lot of private companies love to be where utility leaders are. And so that was part of it, right? Of course, if depending on your level, you have a certain number of seats in that lunch. It's interaction with students. And, so you have to kind of be creative as to how you did. But I will say, like the first year, we had enough sponsors for 16 students within like a couple of days of asking. So I would not be hesitant to ask people to fund something like that. You never know.
New England has also looked in. So New England has also looked into grant opportunities. So we had found one in our region that we ultimately didn't end up applying for, but they we're offering grant money to organizations who are developing and implementing programs that recruited people from underrepresented communities into clean energy and sustainable fields.
Oh, that's great. I wanted to, so definitely want to give Epitayo some time to wrap up this call here. But definitely wanted to get to the next question with Jordan that kind of leads into, it's like, where do you find the right scholars? And how do you establish the connections within the university, schools, programs? And then how do you find places with a larger portion of underrepresented scholars? I think Cam said that was a struggle, when they first started too. So just any ideas on that? Definitely want to hit that. We thought this was a really good question to hit. Want to make sure we hit it on this call. Yeah, Madison.
With NIWEA's InFLOW program, we've definitely had some struggles with that recruitment. So I'm really interested to hear what other people have done. But we started off so we have both the STEM path and the career tech. And for the STEM path, we started with colleges and universities that we already had student chapters at, but trying to recruit diverse students who are not currently engaged in those student chapters. So we sort of already had a framework for folks to continue to be involved with NIWEA. So we went through either the professors in environmental engineering or environmental science or environmental studies departments, or also through diversity offices or C-STEP programs, that kind of thing at the colleges and universities. And then career tech, we've had a little bit of struggles kind of depending on where we're locating our conference. We try to partner with local organizations. So we had a great first career tech with Onondaga Earth Corps when we were at our spring meeting in Syracuse. They're part of the core network, which I think was also mentioned as a partner for WEF's program. So, but then we had our most recent spring meeting in June in Saratoga, and we weren't able to build that partnership. So we didn't have a career tech cohort this year. So I think that's definitely been a struggle, especially on the career tech side, because you really need to build a relationship with an organization. Whereas a lot of MAs, I think, already have some sort of relationship with schools. So I'd love to hear how other people do their recruitment.
I just want to add real quick. I'm in Georgia and we have not started an InFLOW program yet, but there is so much opportunity in our state. And I think it's back to a comment that Lee made about government programs and assistance. I know in our state, we have like a 17-18 program where certain trades are fully funded, and the government, the state of Georgia, will throw money at people to get people involved in those trades. So I think in terms of recruiting people specific to that maybe career tech path, it might be a good idea to look into which state offices are running those programs and how you can tap into their student pool for people interested in that program. But I haven't successfully done it. It's just an idea. Lee?
I was just going to say, and on that front, rightly or wrongly, sometimes partnering with government also raises the legitimacy and credibility of the program, and therefore the awareness. So there's ancillary benefits going forward. I know part of the question was, is the funding sustainable? And for the most part, as long as it's ordered and counseled every year by your local government, then yes, it is. The earlier you make that partnership, the easier it is, I have found, to get the funding again year over year. So again, just a suggestion. I never want to always look to government for things like this, but it's outside of our typical funding window. And up here in Canada, sometimes we think it's a bit of the government's job to generate and support activities like this. So again, more geographic consideration more than anything else. Thanks.
Thanks, Lee. I know we got about 5 minutes left. Is there anyone else that wants to make a comment on this before we hand it over to Epitayo? You can also put it in the chat. So from there, we're going to close out today. This has been excellent. Thanks for all your comments, feedback, stories. And Ifitayo, I will hand it off to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Valerie. And I'm glad that we had this. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about a program, or close off the talking of a program that's definitely near and dear to my heart. It's been good to see it grow. I think it's just maybe the 5th year, or maybe going into the 6th cohort or something like that for on the WEF side. And it's nice to see some of the MAs doing it and putting their own spin on it. Because I think from our side, we have grown it, but what I am seeing, we're getting a lot of applications from schools at this point. But to maintain the part where we are, they can network with each other and successfully network is only but so big that the WEF version of this program can be. And certainly on the career tech side, which is really community-based, we only really impact Chicago and New Orleans. And then, once we move out to a few more WEF tech cities, those cities, which, you hear a lot of utility folks going, but we would really love to hire folks, but you only have but so many schools, and you only have but so many community programs that are in Chicago and New Orleans, and we're elsewhere, especially if you're not in some of those big urban areas. And so that's what some of the folks have been asking. And for that to, and a lot of the students, yes, they move, but for the most part, they want a job within the area that they're going to school or where they're from. And so that has kind of limited, even if I talk to Arcadis recruiters, they love the program, but they can only, we've got offices nationally, right? But we can only then access a certain number of students. So the more that member associations can get engaged, I think the more impact we have to get and the more that we can satisfy what is clearly a workforce need, or help to satisfy what is a workforce need around the country for many different areas, on the utility side, the consulting side, the manufacturer side, and we've had all kind of engaged so far as sponsors or participants. So I think for us to really accelerate that impact, it's really critical that the member associations get involved and embrace the program. And again, understanding that they're the two programs I think Steve talked about. One was for underrepresented racial and ethnic minority groups, and one was really community-based. It's really targeted for helping to fill our operations gap and addressing some of those underserved areas. So certainly we're here for support on that. I will encourage you not to give up. I think if you even heard, Julie's story, where they initially tried to make overtures and didn't, but they persisted. And I think that's part of what you have to understand is you are trying to find people who are not the typical folks that are in water. And that's the point. So if they knew you and you knew them, they might already be here, and they're not. So the idea is we have to make that overture. And I think it's worth the effort, even if it takes, you start somewhere, right? We started 16, and I think we're over. And then the MAs now have that. So if we had said, initially the thought was let's start at 6. So even if you just start and you start working the relationship and it realizes itself 2-3 years later, Julie has already shown you within the 2 years that it finally got off the ground what that is doing. You see what's happening in New York, you see what's happening in Illinois. So I would encourage you to be persistent, because if you show up there and they're like, who the heck are you? That's the point. They don't know who you are, so how are they going to come work in the sector? Sigmund kind of noted, I was doing my degree, water was not on my radar until you came to me. So I think it shows the need for the program, and it shows the need for us to have to get out there. And so, just encourage you to be persistent, and encourage you to work with your boards and MAs to kind of help put this together, because I think it is a worthwhile program. If you talk to the students, even the ones that don't end up in water, they have a better appreciation for water and what we do. And they've all really, on all levels, MAs that I've talked to, and then on the WEF level, all had a really good experience. And so I think it's a worthwhile investment, especially since pretty much every MA and every person you talk to says workforce is goal number one, and issue number one for them. So Anything we can do to help, or I can do to help, let me know.
All right, thanks, Ifatayo. And with that, we're wrapped for today. Y'all have a good afternoon or morning.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.